Hey guys.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending where you are. I'm Francesco Corti, Product Evangelist at Alfresco, and today we would like to continue the series of webinars dedicated to introduce the funding solution of Alfresco from a technical point of view. After the latest webinar about content services, today we are going to talk about processes, and more in particular about business process management with Activiti open source BPM. BPM means Business Process Management engine. Before going deep in the content, let me introduce and proudly introduce two nice guys that are live here with me. Hi guys, how you doing?
Hey Francesco.
Hi Francesco. I'm Bassam
Bassam, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm Bassam Al-Sarori. I'm Alfresco Process Services Tech Lead, and APS is powered by Activiti, proudly powered by Activiti.
Yeah, good stuff. And I'm Mauricio Salatino. I'm the Activiti Tech Lead right now. I'm in charge of the community project, and I'm pushing that forward. So I'm looking forward you guys to see you there in the community. So back to you, Francesco. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So before going deeper, let's leave. We will take again the mic to the guys later on. But before, let me remind something very relevant for us. So I would like to remember that the next 22nd of September, the Global Alfresco Hackathon will happen. If you want more information, you can find it in our community portal at community.alfresco.com. The new this year is that we want to hack on all the relevant parts of the digital business platform. So I hope, guys, that you will join the hackathon. I'm sure that you will join, of course, with the activity and process services staff. Let's move on the content, because of course we want to start with the real content, saying that today we are going to introduce Activiti again with a very focused on the developers, especially if you are not expert. We would like today to give you a brief introduction. As we did for the content services, we are going to describe the relation with the Alfresco process services, that is an enterprise solution powered by Activiti, and the digital business platform as the entire solution for developers. Then we will move and focus on the Activiti stuff to see the Activiti in action with us, Bassam, and have a very interesting overview from Maurizio about the whole solution. Before introducing the digital business platform, let me share some places where you can start studying the Alfresco stuff and the Activiti stuff. So let me share my screen. 1 second, please. Okay, can't you see my screen, guys?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I use also the pointer. So where to start to deal with the Activiti stuff and the Alfresco stuff in general? For sure, the main suggestion is to go into the community portal at community.alfresco.com. We have also a couple of chapters, one dedicated to Activiti 6 and 7, but in any case, focus on Activiti 7, and the chat from alfresco.com, more general on the whole digital business platform. Very relevant is also the documentation portal at docs@alfresco.com, and the university, where you can also find focused learning path about Activiti. So I would like to briefly and very rapidly introduce which is the Alfresco Digital Business Platform. That is the open and modular platform, easy to build on, integrate and extend to build your vertical and horizontal solution on top of it. So the digital Alfresco Digital Business Platform is made by components. One of the core components is the core services. There is a fully featured ECM solution system where you can store all the content. With content, I mean document, video, audio, and content in general, having fully featured versioning, control of the permits, and security on the actions on the content, and so on. Another core component, and this is the topic of today's Tech Talk Live, is the process services BPM system that can easily manage all the processes, forms, instances, items, and tasks in general for connected and not connected to the content, of course. The governance services is mainly focused on the public sector and compliant with the most relevant standards and certified on them. On top of the core system, you can find an open API developing also integration and extension where you can use what is available or customize for your needs and for your application. On top of it, there is a complete framework based on Angular 4 components and structure, but it's mainly JavaScript that you can use to build your vertical application. I don't want to spend, of course, yes, I was forgetting this. Of course, this can be deployed on-premise, in cloud, on hybrid system. I don't want to spend more than this because it's the boring part, honestly. I would prefer to stop my introduction and leave the mic to Maurizio to talk about the activity stuff.
Thank you very much, Francesco. I will definitely start the more technical side, but I would love to start first sharing my screen and continue with the slides. And I just want to give a brief introduction about the BPM side, which is something that if you are not familiar with, it all sounds a little bit complicated. But I wanted to give a little bit of context before Bassam starts showing the tools about what these tools were created and the main purpose of these tools and how you can use these to improve your applications, your integrations, and in general, how your company is performing the work that you are doing. So, Francesco, can you see my screen?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, great. So we are going to start talking about process services. And in order to start talking about process services, we definitely need to understand what the business process is. And when we talk about business processes, you will find these kind of diagrams, these kind of charts. This kind of charts represents business processes, and a business process is just basically a sequence of activities that are performed by different people or different systems inside of an organization or in collaboration with an external entity. That might be another company, it might be an external system or a system that is provided by someone else that you need to coordinate with in order to perform some valuable goal for your organization. If you work in a large organization or in a mid-sized organization, you will find that you already have this business process defined, because in order to grow, you need to formalize how do you perform your work. So in order to do that, you probably created some diagrams like this. And these diagrams, the only thing that they represent is who is interacting with whom, what's the information and how the information is flowing from one activity to another, and which are the systems that needs to move that information from one place to the other in order to make sure that people that is doing work, they have the right information at the right time. In this case, we are looking at the simple process of coordination between an auctioning service, which might be our company, and a seller that is requesting to create a new auction. And you can clearly see here how the interaction happens. If you go and show this to a manager, they will clearly understand how the different parties interact in order to create the new auction, right? And how the payments are sent, who is expecting the payment, and when. Based on all these interactions, then you can start taking actions, and you can define the flow of that information based on the information that you are collecting. So when we talk about business processes, we have a standard notation that we are using in order to create these charts. And this is very important. There is a standard that is called Business Processes Modeling Notation version 2 that defines these diagrams, define how these diagrams should look like in a standard way, so you are not locked into a vendor. Right? And the most important thing of this standard is that it also defines how to execute these business processes by using a process engine. So it means that you can move these diagrams from one vendor like Alfresco or Activiti to a different vendor, and you can still run your processes in the same way. So you are not locked into a process engine. That's really important. But what happens is that if you work in a large or mid-sized organization, you will find out that there are tons of these business processes. So you need to definitely have a methodology on how to deal with this and how to make sure that you keep improving these business processes. And that methodology is called business process management. And what business process management proposes is a way to keep improving your business processes forever in a cycle. So it defines a set of steps like designing your processes, finding out which processes are relevant for your organization or your department, modeling these processes into PPMN diagrams, and then because you are using this standard, you will be able to execute and automate the execution of these processes. Once you are executing your business processes, then you will find out that you can monitor them and you can start getting really valuable information about the execution. And this execution, it's really important because it will allow you to find out where the bottlenecks are. It will allow you to find out how you can optimize the way that you are doing the work and the collaborations that you are performing with different entities. So you keep doing this cycle forever. So you keep improving, you keep adding business processes while you perform this. I am mentioning this because most of the tool that Bassam is going to show, it's the tooling that you will need in these different phases, in these different steps. Because you will need to do all this management, it's really, really important to understand how to do that and which tools are required. Because we are going to execute and we are going to automate these business processes, the brain of the process services in the Alfresco platform is the process engine, which is the activity process engine. And the activity process engine is in charge of picking these diagrams and executing and automating these diagrams and moving the information from one activity to the next one. So the people that it's performing one of these activities, they have all the information that they need in order to work. The process engine stores all the information inside the database. So we will need to understand a little bit about how this component is interacting and storing the state of the process executions inside the database. Again, in Alfresco, we provide these different building blocks that you can pick and embed in your own applications, or you can use our Activiti app that provides all the tooling, all the modelers to interact against the process engine. The process engine doesn't come alone. It comes with a set of services to perform some other automations and some other things that are required when you are automating business processes. For example, a decision engine that is using a different technology, a different standard to represent decisions. And also a form service that it allows us to interact, it allows our users to interact with their tasks via forms. And all this information is kept in the database, of course. Activiti in general is pure Java. It's developed in Java. And again, you can just pick and choose the different services that you want to use. And because of this, it's not tied to any container. So you can use Tomcat, which is our default container, but then you can use WebLogic, you can use, any other Java EE container if you want, or you can just build your own applications using Spring Boot, for example. So it's technology agnostic. And again, because all these building blocks are independent and they are well integrated with the Spring framework. If you are using already the Spring framework, including the process engine inside your applications or inside your services, it's quite like a simple task. But again, in Alfresco, we spend a lot of time building these applications, so you can start using it right away. You don't really need to do much. And because of that, we also provide the REST layer on top of that. And this REST layer is basically exposing all these services. So if you are in an environment where you have .NET applications, Python applications, or different technology stacks, you can still interact with the process engine via REST and automate tasks against that. On top of this, like from the client side, so we provide, again, our Activiti UI that allows you to model processes, model decisions, create forms, and at the same time, it allows you to deal with the execution of your processes and the creation of tasks. So as a user, you can just go to the Activiti UI to perform your tasks, to complete your tasks, and to do your work. If that's not enough, we also in Alfresco we provide the ADF, as Francesco mentioned, which is basically a set of Angular components that allows you to quickly build your own applications on top of that. This is mostly because most of the time you need to build your own applications. You don't want to depend on a custom or our generic UI. And most of our customers, they just want to build their own solutions. So we provide a set of components that are already built to interact against the REST services. So you can just pick that up and mash up your own applications quite quickly. We also provide an admin app, and this admin app is in charge of letting you know about your process executions and how your processes are running. And if there is something wrong happening, you will be able to find that out by using this app and troubleshoot all the problems that you might encounter there. Because we know that the process engine is a centerpiece in the infrastructure, we enable and we provide out of the box a lot of integrations, so it definitely fits in your infrastructure and you can definitely integrate against that. If you are creating business processes and you are creating tasks for people, the most likely to happen is that you want to pick those people from your directory, right? So if you have an Active Directory or an LDAP server with all your organization structure and all your people in there, you want to make sure that the tasks are created for those people. So an LDAP integration is out of the box provided, and you can just hook your LDAP directory into the process engine, and all the identities will be picked up from there. There is another feature, a nice feature from the Alfresco process services, which is basically extracting all the information that is being generated by the process engine to Elasticsearch, so you can just query and understand and do analytics on top of the data that you're extracting. This is very, very useful for high-level people that wants to understand how the company is working, how the organization is doing, how many processes are you running, and aggregating information like that. But without further delay, I would love to introduce Bassam, and he's going to show the tools in action, basically, and how to work with these tools. So Bassam, let me
thank you, Mauricio.
stop my sharing.
Yep. Let's start sharing my screen. I hope that you guys see my screen.
Yes, we can perfectly see your screen.
Okay, good. So
okay, and Bassam, sorry, but take your time, because as usual, and I'm pretty sure that people connected agree with me, your part, nothing to say about Maurizio's contribution, but of course, the technical part where we see the developers hacking is very interesting for the people. So take your time. We have lots of time to discuss and to show stuff. Okay, thank you.
Good. That's good. Yeah. So what I want to talk about is the activity 6, and you can find that code inside the branch called 6.x. So assuming that you have cloned that repository inside your local file system, I'm going to show you guys how to compile and run this, the default UI that comes with Activity. So I'll start by compiling this, and I'm here I'm skipping the tests and also skipping the Java doc generation just to speed things up. And also I'm using the distro profile. The distro profile is used to compile all the modules that's actually needed when you want to show, when you want to work with the Activity UI, because it demonstrates most of the capabilities inside the Activity project. So I want also to highlight some of the main modules. So one of the most important modules is the Activity Engine, and that's actually where the process engine is, and it's responsible of executing the processes, whatever execution needed for the execution of the process at runtime. So in Activity 6, we did some major refactoring, which included, for example, the pluggable persistence. So now it's possible for you to customize how data is stored in the database. So you can just completely replace the persistence layer of the Activity Engine. Another major refactoring that we did is the job tables. Previously, there was only one job table, and that was causing a lot of performance issues. Now it has been split into different tables, which actually provided more better performance. And another important issue, important refactoring is now we got rid of the PVM, something called PVM layer that we used to work on Activity 5. So now that's intermediate layer is no longer needed. The engine directly communicates with the PPN engine, which the PPN model, which actually gives a lot of performance gain in there. Another two engines that were added in Activity 6 is the DMN engine and also the form engine. The daemon engine is an implementation of the standard spec, which is the data or decision model and notation spec 1.1. And also the form engine is just a form engine that will execute and save the forms and allow users to communicate with forms.
Bassam, sorry
yes,
to interrupt you, because of course the questions are starting to come, and this is good, of course.
okay, cool.
So we have a
already
couple of questions, and Maurizio, feel free
Sure.
to join, of course, if you want. The first question is when the Swagger module will be part of the activity for the REST API and so on, if it's planned or not, and if you know when. You want to start to deal with this? And again, Maurizio, feel free to join us to reply to give a complete answer.
Yeah, actually, the Swagger API is part of that now. It's part of Activity 6, and it's available in Activity 6.
I see that probably Axel from the IC is talking about not really a question, but if you can share some thoughts about the database design, if there are some plan to replace the GPA or not, or do you think to maintain in the future release?
Actually, currently in Activity 6, we don't use the GPA. We use MyBetas, and that's actually with this pluggable persistence layer that we provided or was introduced in version 6. That's completely replaceable. So there's a set of interfaces that you can implement and replace that logic over there of the persistence logic.
Okay, thank you very much. Please go ahead. Otherwise, I interrupt you again if you want. Otherwise, I can collect the question for the
no
end
problem,
of your
no
presentation.
problem. Okay, so another important module is this Activity Spring, which actually provides Spring integration with the activity modules. And well, where is this? Okay, it's over here. Yeah, and also the activity REST is another important one. And the activity, we have also for Activity 5 compatibility, we have a Activity 5 compatibility engine. So if for some reason that your process is not running as expected, or for example, if you have tied API, I mean, for example, your logic depends deeply on the Activity 5 engine. So there's an Activity 5 compatibility engine that you can use within the Activity 6. So yeah, that's the main modules, and there are, of course, there are some other integration modules like for example, the OSGI, Camel, Mule, that provide integration with other technologies as well. So let's see if this has completed. I assume it's done now. We can, after that, go to show you guys how the UI looks like. So let's go. Okay. The activity UI is actually inside modules. And there's actually a start script for that you can use to automatically start the UI. It's good. I mean, it's important here to note that by default, this will use the H2 database in memory. So if you want to use persistent memory, then I mean database, then you should change that default, and you can find that file inside the activity app.properties file, which you can modify to meet whatever database you want to use. So okay, let's see the UI. So once that is localhost 1999, I mean 999, and activity app, it will take you to the login page. You can log in using admin and password test. Once you logged in, you will see this is the landing page. The landing page by default contains three main applications: the identity management, task app, and the kickstart. So the identity management is just a way of managing users. So by default, you go inside the page, you have this personal page that you can change your personal details. For example, if you want to change the password, modify your username, change your email address. And also you can also manage users here. So let's try and add a new user here. Let's add demo, for example, and give him an email. activity.org. Okay, and give him a password for that user and demo username. Okay, and here that's been created. Also the groups, the same thing here. You can add a group. Let's also call it demo and call it demo group. Save. Add user members to that group. So let's add the demo user. So that's basically it. There's not much here, just basic identity management stuff. What's interesting is the kickstart. The kickstart is where the place where you actually create processes, create forms, create decision tables, and when you're happy with that, you can just bundle that inside apps and deploy the apps. So let's start by looking into the decision tables. So a decision table is mainly just a way based on some inputs that will execute some rules or will evaluate that input using certain rules, and based on those rules will give you some output. So let's consider that we have a bank application, and where there's a new customer based on his initial balance, we will decide what bank account type will that customer be given. So let's call it here determine bank account type, and here bank, give it the decision table key. So each module inside the modules here, the processes, whether the forms or app, has this unique key. So that identifies the module throughout the whole modules between all different modules, whether processes, forms, or apps. So this is the UI for the decision table. So basically you have an input here, an output here. So you can here give an input. For example, let's give a simple column label for this, and let's call it N. And for example, here we were talking about the bank account and what bank account type should we provide that customer. So let's say that we have a variable inside the process which is called amount, and based on the amount available in that customer's account, we will decide what bank account type to provide them. So this is the input. So we have a variable called amount, and let's define the output. So what's the output of this? The output of this is first of all, this is just a label, so I'll just call it out. What's important is the variable ID that will be outputted from this decision table. So let's call it bank account type, and the type is a string. Okay. So if the customer, so the first rule that we have, let's say if the customer has less than 1,000, then we'll give him just a basic account. Let's call it just basic account. Basic. And another rule, if the customer has more than or less than 5,000, we'll give him an advanced account. Sorry about that. Okay, advanced account. So yeah, and so on. That's the main thing. Just an input that will be validated against these rules, and based on whichever rule that applies and it's true, it will give you the output at the end. So that's pretty much it for the decision tables. So let's have a look on the forms. So a form is a way of to fill in, for example, data from the user, from the process users. So let's say in this case, let's continue with the basic account or the account type that was done inside the decision table. So let's here say that this is a form that will be entered the customer details. So we'll call it customer details. So basically we will need, for example, a text. So here you can drag and drop whatever fields you would like inside the form. So the first thing maybe inside the customer details information is the customer name. So we call it here name. Then we will see what's his opening account, or what's the amount that he has as an opening account, and amount. So that's pretty much it. You can also add more, like a date, for example, and that will say, let's say when he will starting date, for example, if you want, when he wants to open that account. And you can also have a drop down, radio buttons, people, and so on. Upload will actually allow you to upload files from inside from the local file system. And also you can use the expressions. Expressions is an expression field is actually a field that will display, for example, a variable. So let's say that you have a total variable, for example. You can say the total is, and you give it a special expression called total, and that will display the variable called total at runtime. So let's go and see the process models. So here, the process, this is the hub where you can create or import. For example, if you want to have a PPMN standard XML file, you can import it directly here, or you can create your own from scratch. So let's say here we continue with that example of the bank account. Let's say new customer, new customer. So when it's started, it's actually by default creates a start event for you. So this is where the process execution will start. So from here, the process execution will start from a start event. There are other start events that you can use, a timer, a signal, a message, or error event. But these are more details are specified in the user guide. So I won't go into all of them here. So also after that, you also have a set of activities that you can select from. For example, the user task. You can drag and drop a user task here and say that after the start, I want to I want to assign someone a user task. Inside the user task and the start event, you can also like reference forms. For example, here you can say that I want the process to start by adding or by filling a form. So here we were specifying that this process will start by filling a form and will be assigned to a task will be created and assigned to, for example, let's say the process initiator, or you can say, no, I want to assign it to a single user. For example, let's try the demo user here. Okay. And after that, you can also use things that you can use here. You can also use, for example, the decision tasks. That's where that decision table can be linked. So, for example, after the task, you want to say, okay, I want to execute a decision table, and there you can also reference the decision table you want to use, and that will execute. So after the user task, the decision table will be executed. So here we can say that determine bank account type, and for example, based on the output from the decision table, you can have an exclusive gateway. Will actually means that one flow will be needed, or there will be several conditions based on based on a certain expression. One single flow will continue the execution. So, for example, if you want to have, let's say, after this execution, after the decision table, you want to see if the bank account type was, let's say, bank account type equals basic. So if it's a basic account, you want to, let's close this one. You want to execute this user task. If not, then you have a service task, for example, that will execute a specific customized logic that you want to run. For example, if you have a class that exists inside your inside the class path, then you can just specify here what the class name is, and the engine will instantiate a new class object from that, and will call that class.
Sorry, Bassam,
So
may I interrupt you with a couple of other questions, because you're going great, but we have also questions interesting. So one question is, are we thinking to include in Activiti the Alfresco connector?
Okay, That's not in the plan currently. We don't have plans for that, but we would like, for example, if someone would like to contribute, and we're open for contribution.
I think it's a fair question. Just a remark on the comments. Because of course there is a little bit of confusion probably about the Alfresco Process Services. So the Alfresco Process Services Community Editions doesn't exist. Exists Activiti, and Alfresco Process Services is powered by Activiti. Okay, it's a tricky stuff, but just to be clear, everyone. The second question, because I don't want to steal time to the valuable contribution of Bassam, is the same question for the step editor. So the question is, do we have plan to include the step editor in the Activiti, the next versions of Activiti?
I don't think so. No, that's an enterprise feature, and we don't have plans to include that in the open source.
Okay, thank you, Bassam. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So after we define the steps, so there should be an end determination event, and that's where this is about. Is terminates the process. So this is the end of the process execution. So it's quite simple, just to drag and drop these, and once you're happy with that, you can just save it. And inside now, once this process has been created and modeled, and you're satisfied with that, you can go and create an app, and say, let's say customer app. And specify what process modules you want to add in this app, and you can save and publish that app as you like, and that should be available in the landing page. So for this, for actually seeing this in action, let me import a custom app that I previously designed. So this is the examination app, or exam app, a simple app. It's not really complicated, just does the simple thing, which is let me open the process. So this is the process. So it starts by filling the students. For example, let's say that we want a way that based on the marks of a student that is entered, we determine the grade of that student, and then after that we say that whether he failed, depending on his marks, whether he failed or he passed. So of course here it's just user tasks, but in real life that could be maybe an mail task, for example, that will send an email to his parents, notifying them of what he did, or how good he did or bad he did. So let's see how this process is designed. So it starts by a form, and this form is just simply two fields: the student name and the marks that he had for his examination. After that, there's a decision table that would determine the grade of that based on the marks. So here we have the marks and the grade that will be as an output, marks as input, and grades as our grade as output. So if the grade is equal or greater than 90, then he gets an A plus. 80 or more, then he get the A, and 70, and so on. Simple decision table that will determine the grade of that student. Once that's been determined, then there's this expression that checks the marks. Whether it's greater than 50, it will create a user task called passed. Otherwise, there's the other condition that if the marks are less than 50, it will create a failed user task. So let's see it in action. Let me publish this app. So once you're happy with the app, you just go ahead and publish it. Once it's published, it should appear here in the dashboard or the landing page, and there you can actually go to the processes and then start a process. So this is the start form that we designed. We included in the start event. So here, let's start by adding a student name. Let's say good boy, and we scored 99. He's a good boy and should be passed. Yeah, he's passed. So if you go here, you see good boy has grade is A plus. So that's actually inside another form that I forgot to mention. Maybe if we can go here. Yeah, this is the form, the other form that I forgot to mention. Where's the reference form? Yeah, here it is. So it uses the expression field to display the student name and give his grade that was determined based on the decision table. So let's try another example. Let's start another process, and let's say bad boy, and he got 40 marks only, and he failed, and he got a grade of F. So that's pretty much it. How does it? I mean, how does this processes are designed and published and seen in action? So going back to the landing page, there's a task app, but before explaining the task app, let me add some more apps that I designed previously. So I have this app, and also I'll add another app, the timer app. Okay, I published this one. Not sure if I published that other one. Let me just publish it again. Okay. So as you can see, we have two more apps, the timer app and the bad app. So if you go to each app, you will see that it only shows the app that is inside, I mean, the processes that are inside the app. But the task app is similar to other apps, but it shows all the tasks from all apps and all processes from all apps as well. So you can see here, you have all the processes in all apps instead of just concentrating on one app instead. So okay, that's what's inside the task app. It's good to mention here that this is not a UI only. You can also start processes using the REST API. So for example, let's go ahead and start a process here. I will be using the Postman to start a process, and I will use this API that is available, which is API runtime process instances, which is responsible. I mean, which allows you to start a process. Of course, that in the user guide you will see the set. There's a set of other APIs, REST APIs as well that you can use. So I'll just go ahead and start a process over here. So okay, so it actually started the process here. You can see the response and gave me the details of the process, the ID. I go to the bad app here and see if, yeah, there was a task A created. So I'll try to complete it. Oops, so something is gone wrong. If we go to the process and see the design of the process, so the process actually consists of start event, a task, then an expression, which is based on the value. The value should be either here the expression says that the value is less than 100 or the value is greater than 100. So because we started the process without providing that detail, the process execution failed. And if you can see here the logs, you will see that fire value. So I mean, how to fix these issues? How certain things happen? Of course, you can fix it using the REST APIs. There's a REST API that allows you to add a variable to a process instance, but also there's also this activity admin that will allow you to manage the, so it's inside the C modules, activity admin. And also there's a start.sh that starts this one. And again, it will use an internal in-memory H2 database, so the data will not be persistent throughout the executions. Running the process the application. So if we go here and go to the activity admin, throughout run, so it's by the 8080 active using admin. And for here, you can see the settings that which instance of the APS, I mean, of the activity that it's connected to. So for example, here, it's connected to this particle server, which is this instance that is pointing to. And you can change that from the editing activity rest point if you want to. So it also shows you the deployments, which processes have been deployed or what apps were deployed. For example, here we have the exam app, the timer app, and the bad app. And inside each deployment, you will see the process definitions inside that app. And also inside the definitions, you can also see the set of process definitions that are started. And inside each of that, you can also see the each process definition. Show the diagram if you want to see the diagram, how it looks like. So show the running processes. And also, for example, here we have the instance of the process that we recently started. And if you can see that it has only one variable, which is created by default. This is mostly most of the processes start with an initiator that contains the value of the user ID that started the process. So in order to fix this issue of the task over here, to be able to complete it, we need to add the variable that is missing, which is the value variable. So let's add this variable here and type long and give it a value of 100, for example. Great, has been created. And so now we try again to complete this task. So it's completing successfully. So that's there with, I mean, this is the cases where this activity admin can be used and can be handy, is to troubleshoot any issues that can happen in the in activity engine or the activity UI that is running. And you can also see what processes are running, what instances are running, which tasks are running. So for example, here we have the task that, for example, task C. Task C is not, as if you can see here, there's no assignee, there's no owner, so no one will be able to see this process. For example, if you go back here and see the tasks, there's no task here. So how to fix that? Again, you can use it here. For example, you can have the ability to edit the task, change the description, change the owner, due date, priority, category, or delegate it, complete it, or maybe assign it to someone. So for here, I'll assign it to the admin user. And again, if you refresh this page, you will find the task has been created here and you can complete it.
Bassam, we have a feedback that the people is liking this feature from the RC channel. So good feedback.
Like, you mean the activity admin?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that was added in the activity section. It's quite handy, yes.
Then I will ask you another question about the integration from Activiti and Alfresco, but I think that we should complete this. Then we will discuss later on. Don't worry, please go ahead.
Okay, sure. So the last thing here is I want to show is the jobs. So jobs are created whenever there's a future task that needs to be executed. So let's say you have a timer, you have anything that needs to be run in the future. Mostly timers are a good example. So because we don't have any jobs currently running, there's no processes that actually uses a job. So I have an app here that actually can help us create some jobs. So this is just a basic process. If you see the diagram, it starts when, then after the start, it just creates a timer event, an intermediate catch event with a timer that is scheduled to run on the 1st of March 2019. So if you go here back to the app and refresh, you will see that this is the job that is being created, and its due date is the 1st of March 2019. So let's say if I want to actually execute it now, you can go ahead and execute it now if you want to. Yep. And it was executed successfully. If you go back to the diagram, it should show that after the next task or the next task has been created. Let's go again. Yeah, here it is. It has been started. If you reach, there's no active task, just need to refresh the page. And here it is. There's the after task timer or after timer task, and then you can complete it. So I think that's what I wanted to show in this particular session. Back to you, Francisco.
Oh, and you are perfectly on time, so that's
good.
Great.
That's good.
So
I'll stop sharing.
Okay, so we have one question for the YouTube channel, and then we are open and we have some minutes. If you want to raise other questions, please do in the RC channel or in the YouTube channel. But we have a question from the YouTube channel: if it is possible to integrate Activiti with Alfresco Content Services Community Edition. The question continue to have some brief description how to do that. We all know that it's quite complex, but if you can give us some color, could be great. I don't know who wants to take the question, Bassam, if you want to take, or Maurizio can that out.
I'll take that. It's okay.
Yeah.
So integrating the Alfresco content services. So actually, basically, you will need to write a custom service logic that will do that. So inside the service task, you can write whatever logic you want to, and that logic can contain, for example, if you want to connect to an external service and that in that case, it could be Alfresco content services or Alfresco community edition. And that's if you want to to be for it to be visible inside the BPN editor, then there's more work that is needed, that you need to modify some JSON files that the editor UI uses, and that's where there's some converters also you need to write. So yeah, there's some steps that you need to follow that in order to customize that.
Okay, so in brief, the answer is yes. You can integrate Alfresco and Activiti. Just to give other colors of what you well explained, there are lots of solutions because you can integrate them also on top of the solution. For example, using a custom application that works together with Alfresco and Alfresco Content Services, Community Edition and Activiti, but it's a different stuff. So this is a question. We have another question from the YouTube channel, and this probably we need also Maurizio giving some kinds of help, is which are the big differences between Activiti and Flowable? So this is a complex question. You want to reply or to contribute, or to you, Bassam, if you want?
Yeah, I can definitely contribute to that one. So basically, Flowable was a fork from the Activiti project, and they took Activiti 6, basically, before it was released, and they started working on that. And they have a roadmap. Now we have a different roadmap for Activiti 7. That's something that we are already working on. You can find more details about that roadmap in the Alfresco blog and also in my personal blog as well. I'm leading that work, and we are definitely changing the direction of the project towards modern environments and microservices infrastructures. So you can take a look at there. You can take also a look at the roadmap, and you will be able to find out the differences. In general terms, they are both process engines. They are both based on the same code base. Now we are reshaping the internal services to be more flexible and more integrated with cloud environments, basically. I hope that answered the questions. You can go to the roadmap to see the details about how is that technically done and what were we planning and what we are planning, of course.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question from the YouTube channel. Can we create or modify BPM schema directly from Alfresco?
It's not clear from Alfresco.
So from Alfresco, probably I try to interpret. Otherwise, please comment in the YouTube channel. I mean, probably the question is, I am in Alfresco Content Services, probably Community Edition, because it's the same guy that raised a previous question, and I want to change the BPM schema, so the process directly from I suppose share interface, but I don't know because it's not written. So is it possible to change the BPM from the share interface? I think the answer is clearly not, but because it's not something that Alfresco Content Services manages, but it's managed directly from the process services. Am I correct, Bassam?
Yeah, that's something that the Alfresco content side actually have some wrappers around the engine, and that's something that they only expose some certain APIs. Yep.
Okay, so I don't know if we have other questions from the. I cannot see other questions from the IRC channel or or the YouTube channel. So we can give a few moments more if you have more questions to raise. In the meantime, I would like to remind you that the 22nd of September, we are organizing together with the Order of the Bee, and more in particular with Axel Faust, that is one stars for the hackathons, the Global Virtual Hackathon. It will cover the entire globe with different time zones and projects. We are organizing some hacking rooms, physical hacking room. If you are interested to organize this hacking room, please let us know. We will support you with some swags or some pizza and beers, let me say. And another information for you, if you want to join a project, I remind to you that we will have projects on the whole digital business platform. So Alfresco Content Services, activities / Alfresco Process Services, the search services, the ADF stuff, lots of stuff to do. So if you want to join us the 22nd of September, we will be more than happy. I don't see coming questions, even if in the RC channel we have an interesting discussion that we can take offline, probably not in this webinar. And I see that someone likes my idea of the pizza and beer. You know? So I would like to thank, first of all, Maurizio and Bassam, because it was a long time that we had the chance to see something about BPM, and I have the feeling that we will see more in the future, of course, also about enhancement, and of course we are waiting also for all the new stuff that are going to come. So thank you again. Maurizio, do you want to say something?
No, I just want to say thank you to all the community for joining, and there will be a lot of more coming, so stay tuned there. Yeah.
Bassam, do you want to add something?
No, I'd just like to thank everyone for attending this.
Okay, so probably we have another more question of the last minute. I'm more than happy to get it. So from the RC channel, regarding the extra user interface component for the activity Alfresco integration, would those JSON and extension be upgrade friendly? I don't know if I get the questions from Ireg in the chat, because generally he was saying that the upgrade means a lot of work. I'm sorry, but I think I don't get the question. So probably I will take the question offline, then we will discuss and give a reply to Eunice. Again, thank you very much, guys. I see from the attendance that the webinar has been really appreciated for the audience. And again, see you soon and talk to you later. Thank you again.